All right, let's do this. Tyson versus Paul. You guys want us to deep dive on this one. And
it's a big one.
yeah, it is boxing legend versus the YouTuber turned boxer, you know. Really did feel like a clash of worlds.
Definitely. And I think you add in the whole generation gap too, right? I mean,
Well, then.
31 years between them.
Tyson was already a champ when Jake Paul was, just being born? It's crazy. And the deeper we dug, the more...
It is crazy.
Yeah, the more fascinating this whole thing got. I mean, we're talking like leaked scripts, celebrities everywhere, Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Had a meltdown, even a little WWE flashback thrown in there.
I mean, this fight really captured everyone's attention, didn't it?
It did. So first things first there, let's set the scene. This wasn't just some like exhibition. This was a pro fight, like licensed, the whole thing. November 15th, AT&T Stadium in Texas.
Huge venue.
Huge. Not your average boxing match, eh?
No, not at all. And I think to kind of understand like what was on the line here, we got to look at the fighters, you know, their backgrounds and everything. You hear that phrase, tail of the tape, right? It's essentially that comparison before a fight, all the stats, experience, all that, sets up the story, kind of like the pre-fight narrative.
Okay. So for this one, what was this tail of the tape telling us?
So you had Tyson, obviously, right? 58 years old at this point, 50 wins under his belt, former undisputed heavyweight champ. Big question was, you know, the age thing. How much did he have left after all these years?
Right. Could he really turn back the clock, that sort of thing? And what about Paul?
So you got Jake Paul, 27 years old, 10-1 record, known for his power, you know, knockouts. But the thing is, he's usually a cruiserweight, right? So for this fight, he's jumping up to heavyweight. It's a whole different
Yeah, it changes every
ball game. Absolutely.
So right away, you've got this tension, you know, the legend, but is he past his prime? And then this young guy stepping up. But then you pile on top of that all the pre-fight hype, the trash talk, oh my God, and that weigh-in brawl. You could tell they
wanted to get at each other.
Oh yeah, ready to go. And don't forget, Netflix was live streaming this thing, like globally.
They knew they had a spectacle. They leaned into it for sure.
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay, enough build-up. Let's get to the fight itself, round by round. Take us through it.
Right off the bat, you could tell Jake Paul, he was in control, using his reach, that jab. He was really dictating the pace of the fight. Tyson, he seemed like he was struggling to find his rhythm. And it was interesting, you know. It almost felt like Paul was being cautious, you know, respectful even, almost like he was hesitant to unleash everything he had on Tyson.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like he was acknowledging the weight of Tyson's, legacy, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. Now, it wasn't a complete domination, though. Tyson had his moments, you know, landed some good shots, especially in those middle rounds, but he just couldn't sustain it, you know, keep that momentum going. Paul, he was agile, kept using clinches, you know, real smart, disrupting Tyson's game plan.
So even though Tyson had those bursts, Paul was essentially shutting him down strategically.
Exactly, yeah. He was fighting smart, not just brute force. And, you know, that tactical approach, it won him the fight. All three judges scored at 79-73, Paul's favor. Unanimous decision.
Wow. So despite the weight class jump, Paul really took it to him. Now, Tyson, even in defeat, he said this interesting thing afterward. He said, I didn't prove nothing to anybody, only to myself. I'm not one of those guys that looks to please the world. I'm just happy with what I can do.
Introspective, right. Almost like this fight, it wasn't about winning or losing for him. It was something deeper. Testing himself, maybe?
It's a good point, yeah. Like not just about titles or anything like that. It's about personal growth. I like that.
And it's worth noting, Paul in his interview after, you know, he showed a lot of respect for Tyson, called him the greatest of all time. So despite that rivalry, there was this sportsmanship there.
Class act. Okay, but it wasn't just the main event, right?
Yeah.
Other big fights that night. What else stood out to you?
Well, you had Katie Taylor defending her undisputed light welterweight title against Amanda Serrano. Now, a lot of people were saying that was the real fight of the night. Nonstop action, both fighters just going at it real close. Taylor ended up keeping her titles, but...
Oh, I bet some controversy with the judges. Probably.
Oh, of course. The classic boxing debate, right? Who really won?
Yeah.
And then you had Mario Barrios versus Ail Ramos for the WDC title. That one was a draw, but my God, it was a war. Both guys just leaving it all out there, all 12 rounds.
Sounds intense. And what about Raj Goyat? He was on the card too, right?
Yes, he really dominated against Whindersson Nunes, showcased his power, his skill, controlled the whole fight. Really impressive win for Goyat.
Okay, so we've covered the fights themselves, but what about all the other stuff? You know, the things that made this more than just boxing.
Right. Well, remember that leaked script we talked about, making the rounds online before the fight? Round by round breakdown ended with Paul knocking Tyson out in the fifth.
I remember that. People were going crazy over it.
Oh, yeah. Publicity stunt, a real leak. Who knows? But it definitely got people talking.
For sure. And speaking of getting people talking, the celebrities there, it was insane. Shaq, Gronk, even Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, like the Cobra Kai guys.
It was like a who's who of, well, everything.
It's true. Like everyone wanted in on this thing. But hold on, because not everything went smoothly. Netflix, remember? Live streaming and, well,
The technical issues. Yeah.
major technical difficulties. People reporting lag,
Yeah.
buffering, some even completely cut off. And so many people tuning in worldwide. The backlash was,
It was pretty bad.
it was huge event. Everyone's watching, and then technology just, it's rough. But, thinking about spectacle and Tyson, can't help but think back to WrestleMania 14. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Back in '98, Tyson in the WWE ring. Another huge spectacle.
Keeps popping up in these moments. It's amazing.
Mm.
Decades after his prime.
Enduring presence,
Yeah.
He's larger than life at this point. Makes you wonder, how will this fight be remembered?
That's the question, isn't it? Just another celebrity boxing match or something more, something that changes how we see the sport.
We're going to dive into those bigger questions right after this, so stick with us.
Back again, and we were talking about all that spectacle, right? The Netflix issues, the script, the celebrities. It's like something out of a movie, the whole thing. But it does make you wonder, did all that kind of overshadow the actual...
The fight itself. Yeah, I mean, was it a real boxing match or just like entertainment, It's a good question. I think the answer's somewhere in the middle, On one hand, you got these two, well, personalities, Tyson, all that history, wins, controversies, the whole package. And then Paul trying to prove himself as a boxer, not just some YouTuber. That clash right there, that's enough to grab people's attention.
And then all that pre-fight stuff, the trash talk, that weigh-in, they were ready to go at it.
Oh, for sure. Added fuel to the fire, no doubt about it. But at its core, it was still a boxing match. Two guys in the ring, putting it all on the line.
And I think from a pure boxing perspective, got to give Paul credit. He fought smart, Distance, that jab, thinking ahead. It wasn't just like brawling. He had a plan.
Absolutely, yeah. Boxing IQ, a lot of people didn't expect that from him. And Tyson, maybe not the Iron Mike we all remember, but there were moments, especially those middle rounds. And remember, this wasn't some exhibition. It was a real fight, professionally licensed.
Stakes were high. Reputations on the line for both of them.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about boxing today, You got these YouTubers turned boxers like Paul, bringing in a whole new audience, people who wouldn't normally watch boxing.
It's interesting, right? Shaking things up, for sure. Some people, the purists, they see it as a threat, They say it's all about entertainment, not the sport itself. Worried about, cheapening the legacy of boxing.
I get that, yeah. But then you could also say it's bringing in new fans, right? More money, younger people watching, exposing the sport to a wider audience. It's like, is it diluting it or is it evolving?
Good question. And it's not like boxing has ever been a stranger to spectacle, Ali Frazier, Tyson Holyfield, those were events, bigger than just the fight itself.
It's true. This fight, all the trauma, it tapped into that same energy. It became this conversation starter. Social media blew up, more than just punches being thrown.
It was, yeah. Generations clashing, how we see fame and legacy in the age of, all this social media. And sometimes the most unexpected matchups, those are the ones that tell the best stories.
And you can't ignore the legacy thing either, can you? Tyson, 58 years old, that legacy, it's huge. This fight, win or lose, it put him back in the spotlight. And for Paul, chance to go from internet personality to, serious athlete. Beating a legend, even if he's not what he used to be, that's a statement.
So where do they go from here? Tyson, does he keep fighting? Is this it for him?
And Paul.
Oh.
Who's next? Another big name. Or does he do his own thing, in this new wave of celebrity boxing? We can only speculate. But this fight, it left a mark, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Sparked debate, made us think about the sport in a new way, and what's next, who knows. But it was about more than just the fight itself.
What it represented, right? The cultural impact, you can't deny that. And that's what we're going to get into in our final segment, so don't go anywhere. All right, so we talk about the fight, all the hype, what it means for boxing, but what about, for us, the people watching? What do we take away from all this?
I think this whole thing shows how sports can really reflect, what's going on in society. You know what I mean? It was never just about boxing. It was about celebrity, this whole blur between entertainment and sports, and how we deal with legacy, especially in this day and age where things change so fast.
It really did get everyone talking, even people who don't usually follow boxing.
Exactly, yeah. Debates, memes, social media was going crazy. And it made us think about, what makes a sport real? who we pay attention to, how the past influences the present, all that stuff.
And what's interesting to me is there's no easy answers, more questions than answers, and that's what makes you think.
It's not simple, is it? It's messy, it's complicated, full of contradictions.
It is, and that's what makes it, I think, a reflection of where we are culturally. Too much information, values changing all the time, trying to figure it all out.
Trying to make sense of it all, yeah. And the Tyson-Paul fight, it kind of captures that struggle in a weird way.
Like we're all trying to write our own tale of the tape, right? Who are we? What's our story?
And just like boxing, no guarantees in life, right? You step into the ring, give it your all. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But it's that whole journey, the struggle, the spectacle, that's what sticks with people.
So as we wrap up, one last thing for everyone listening to think about. Does this whole thing, does it change how you see boxing now with all the social media and everything?
Yeah.
Can you have both, the legacy and the spectacle?
Something to think about for sure. One thing's for certain, this conversation, it's not over. This fight's going to keep having ripple effects, changing boxing in ways we can't even imagine yet.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Tyson-Paul showdown.
As always, keep those questions coming, and we'll catch you next time, ready to dive into another fascinating topic.